people.
Can I just say, I've got a picture of a Taliban, and in their office, they've got a MAGA cap in the corner.
No way.
Have they really?
I should have sent that to you, Julian. Yeah. The
definitely.
Taliban. I think Trump's made deals with them. Remember, didn't they go to the White House? They had to go to a meeting in the White House.
Mm.
I do believe I have a vague right, but they were in the White House in the 80s as well, and then they were in the White House. They were in Bush's White House as well. You know, they were welcome because they'd helped the United States.
Do you think there's been some handshakes under the table?
Absolutely.
For sure.
But they're not as clever as the Chinese. I think the Chinese have probably been the smartest. They've been talking to the Taliban for a while, and they've been saying to them, look, listen, if you do take over, we're going to be there and we're willing to invest.
Yeah.
And we're going to, because they want their beltway between Europe and Asia to go ahead, and they don't want any trouble. But the Americans wanted rid of this, and basically I'd say they told the Taliban, if you promise us not to allow Al-Qaeda to stay here, we're going to leave you to it.
Goodness, it sounds like the time Saudi Arabia promised Russia they could make sure there were no terrorist attacks at the Winter Olympics if they followed suit in a few places. Yeah, that was regarding Syria. I said, we can guarantee no terrorist attacks at your Winter Olympics if you cooperate in Syria, which is kind of like a nice way of threatening people. Here's Bernie Sanders now, and he's saying foreign policy matters after 20 years of US efforts, the loss of 2,448 soldiers and $1 trillion spent. Afghanistan was left with a corrupt government and an ineffectual army. At this moment, we must do everything we can to evacuate our allies and open doors to refugees. He's one of these refugees welcome people, and I know you do a lot to help refugees in Ireland and elsewhere, Brian. Is there a sense that as much as we should help these refugees, and that must be something that is supported, do some people want there to be refugees so that they can show how nice they are and so that they can help them? Wouldn't it be better if these people didn't have to be refugees. And we could be working on that?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think, like, here's the thing. You've got people, liberal people in the West, and they're like all for opening up the borders and stuff like that, and for noble enough reasons, but they're not prepared to put a stop to their governments intervening in these very costly conflicts. And you know, like, it's so frustrating because these people that are in charge of these military incursions, they're bumbling idiots. Like, we're told that they're superpowers, but they're so stupid and dumb in how they carry out. I mean, here's the thing. I think Americans in Iraq and in Afghanistan could probably have had a win. But the people that they have in charge, I mean, I think you have a level of corruption in Afghanistan, but you also have a level of corruption in America in terms of their politics, but also their military. You know, the Pentagon and military contracts. There's a very good film about how the Americans spent this Bradley armor vehicle. They spent billions on this vehicle that when they brought it into Iraq, it was a death trap. But because people were getting their palms greased and stuff like that. So, like, corruption isn't just something in Afghanistan. It's right across the world. It's just that, you know, they hide it a bit better in America. But
for sure.
It's insane how stupid they are.
And I've got a picture on the screen now. Fears the Taliban will bring back amputations and executions. Of course, in America, the executions are not public, which is such
they sound like Baptists.
Yeah, how civilized. We had a comment regarding what we said earlier on from Kamia. The Persians were the agents of the West to infiltrate and cause discord in Afghanistan. There you go. Long live Mohammad Karzai. That's from Ayatollah Troll Khomeini. And Kamia saying, we really need to not take the media's portrayal of the Taliban, as you cannot take over a country of warriors without having significant backing of the people. Yeah, I guess there must be a sizable portion of Afghanistan that maybe don't mind the Taliban or welcomed them, as you said, when the Soviets left, and then maybe think they're not so bad now. I mean, it's better than being at war, isn't it? You can't have perpetual war in a country.
Yeah, there's going to be a couple of things happening. Like there's going to be the heroin on the streets is going to dry up. Starters, Taliban put a stop to that.
Yeah,
you know, when they left, there was a big problem. Like that was one of these strange offshoots of Western incursion into Afghanistan. You had this massive heroin dump on the west.
Okay, so yeah, as soon as the Taliban were out of there, heroin was pouring out and pouring. Well, I mean, Iran has a huge heroin problem, and that's one of the reasons why they have such a high rate of execution. They execute a lot of drug dealers, but then why would Iran help the West topple their neighbor if it was only going to lead to an influx of heroin?
Refugees.
Yeah, well, refugees, heroin, absolutely.
I think in 2000, I think. I'll stand corrected if the lads know better. But in 2000, the Iranians have been back in the Northern Alliance, and there was a town or city in the north of Afghanistan, and 22 Iranian diplomats, they're probably intelligence or Revolutionary Guard, were taken by the Taliban and shot, I think, right?
Yeah.
And the Iranians actually mobilized on the border of Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. They were going to make an incursion. Yeah. This is pre 9/11.
Yeah.
And they didn't. They thought to themselves, well, if we get involved in Afghanistan, that'll leave us very weakened, and the West might pop into us at some stage. But so the Iranians don't have are probably sensible enough to realize that if they got involved in Afghanistan, it would destroy their revolution or destroy the system of government that they have, because they wouldn't be able to, just like any other country that gets involved, it's a disaster.
Mm-hmm. I wonder what was going through Saddam Hussein's mind when Afghanistan were being attacked, and did he know that he was next? Because it was only 18 months later on that they were toppling his statue. Another negative aspect of the return of the Taliban, I mean, here's another story. If I can get it on the screen. I can't seem to get it. Oh, here we go.
Can Andre, you're talking about there's two. You're saying mines as in copper and all that crack.
Yeah, go on, Andre. You get that.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go for it, Andre.
Oh, right. I didn't know if I was online. I don't know. We're all speculating, but I'm not sure Iran plays a big part in this. I could be wrong. I think it's to do with resources and the power struggle going on between Russia and the West. Where we stand right about now, I don't know. I don't really know. All I know is I'm sick and tired of hearing people run down the Taliban as if the Taliban were the new threat to Afghanistan. Taliban's been in Afghanistan since time, and their mindset.
Andre says they came just to get the Soviets out when the Americans armed them. Has they really? Do you mean the Taliban mindset? Are you equating the Taliban with Pashtunwali and this order of honor that goes back in Afghan culture?
You know, there's somebody who's been talking on there from Ireland. I don't know his name. Excuse me.
Yes, Brian. You're through to Brian now.
All right, bud.
Right, Brian came out. Brian basically took the words out of my mouth because I was going to. That's why I've kept quiet, because half of what he said was what I was going to mention. Britain's gone to war. A lot of people don't know this, but Britain went to war with Afghanistan 3 times. Twice in the 1800s, and then obviously now. And it's a major part. It was about control. It was to do with the Silk route leading out between India and Afghanistan. I believe the Silk route goes from Siberia straight through to China, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right. And there was a lot of control to do with that, and it was to do with the Napoleonic era, and obviously to do with the Crimean War. To do with the Crimean War. But, you know, we can turn around and say England this, that, blah, blah. But the truth of the matter is we are our own worst enemies. 90% of the army that was made up, that controlled and fought in Afghanistan were Sikh soldiers.
Really?
That's correct. Yeah.
Wow.
The Bengal Lancers, whatever else, you know. And at the end of the day, you know, we are our own worst enemies, because somebody comes in, offers us a couple of trinkets, offers us a bit of cake, a cup of tea.
When you say we, you mean the people of the empire, the occupied people. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I joined the army at 16. I nearly served in Londonderry.
Don't call it that. Don't call it that.
Sorry.
So, Andre's calling in from Dublin, Reading, by the way.
Right.
Careful. We got. But why didn't you, Andre? Why didn't you? What was your change of heart? Did you see through it? Did you see, I don't want to go and blow up brown and black people?
No, I didn't. Say that again. Okay. Say that point again, what you just said.
I was just saying, are you obviously glad that you didn't put a weapon or take a weapon and go around the world?
Now, obviously, in hindsight, I have, but I was 16 at the time, and joining the British Army was something I wanted to do from the age of 5. You know, I was caught up in all the colonial hype, etc. And, you know, I thought it was my duty as a Brit to join the army. So it's what I wanted to do. I'm glad I didn't. In fact, it was my mum what got me out, because at 16, you need both your parents to sign, and only my dad signed. But I had to be a bit naughty, and I forged their signature. That's how I got in. But she found out and grasped on me.
You'll be court-martialed before the end of the live stream. Goodness me.
I didn't get to finish the basic, but the point I'm trying to say to you is my regiment at the time was the Duke of Edinburgh's, and that regiment at that time, soldiers were dying like twice. The IRA was serious; they weren't playing about. You know, I think they're one of the best successful terrorist organizations out there, and I use the word terrorist loosely because yesterday's terrorist is today's hero, isn't it?
Well, Bin Laden was a holy warrior on his way to defeat the Soviet Union, and then he became a terrorist later on. I want to bring Omar in because he's got a short back and sides. He looks like he's about to do his military service. Welcome, Omar. What have you made of what's been said so far?
Can I just say one? Oh,
yeah, go on, Andre.
Wow, I didn't recognize you. I like the hairstyle, bro. It suits you as well.
Wait, just let Andre finish his point for a moment.
Yes, sir.
Go on, Andre.
The Taliban, the Taliban have taken over the country. I deal with a lot of soldiers even now that are suffering with PTSD, etc., who have served, because obviously my business with pest control and stuff like that, I need their skills. So I deal with a lot of Royal Engineers. And there's lots of stories of the translators throwing grenades on them while they're sleeping and stuff like that. There's a lot of reports of that stuff happening while they were serving out there. The point I want to make is this. Yes, let's agree that they oppress women. The Taliban oppress women. Let's just agree for the sake of the argument that they oppress women. Let's just agree that they don't look after their people. All right, okay. something is telling me that they prefer that to happen rather than coming into their country and trying to give them what we believe to be the right way to live.
Yeah, exactly. I think it might be the lesser of two evils, like we said. Omar, welcome.
Thank you very much. Good evening to all. I myself am from a Pakistani background, and we have 3 million refugees here in Pakistan. They are from Afghan origin. So we have a lot of refugees. We are very concerned that we're going to have many more refugees. And as I'm sure you've seen on the TV, there are many more coming through. What I will say about the Taliban is that don't be fooled. If they are oppressors of women, that's not the only thing that they are. If they are oppressors, they are everything else that comes along with that. All the other robbery, I mean, look at the heroin, for example. I thought Islam was against drugs. Where does 90% of the world's heroin come from? It comes from that place. So this is just a shroud. This is just a cover up. We're Muslims. There's nothing really Islamic about you. I thought Islam was peace, justice, and equality for all. So I myself, I'm anti-Taliban. I don't see any good in them whatsoever. They took that country back hundreds of years. And if you ever visit Afghanistan, you'll think you've gone back hundreds of years. You'll think you've gone back 500-600 years. So it's not only the oppression of women. There's child abuse. There's all sorts of abuse. There's injustice every place you go in Afghanistan. And this is an army. The Taliban are a group of people that the whole world combined could not take on. Now, this is saying a lot right here. Everyone was there. All these nuclear powerful countries were there, and no one could take them out. And it took 20 years, and they just rose back in one day. So what the heck is going on is my question to you.
I would like to answer that question.
Go on, Andre.
Boris Johnson, there's 3 big points I want to make. I hope I remember them all. But here's one point. Boris Johnson allegedly won the election to get into power here with a landslide, one of the biggest landslides since Maggie Thatcher. Right.
To be fair, I don't think it's alleged.
Right.
He really did.
How many? Okay, but from what I'm hearing, nobody likes him. So I would say to this now, let's have an educated guess. There's 65 million people in Britain. How many millions do you think don't like him?
Good few.
Okay, not enough to get him out of power though. So my point is this: if there's 3 million people, I hear you. There's 3 million, and I'm going to say there's going to be 10 million going to be going to Pakistan as refugees. What's the population of Afghanistan?
37 million.
How much?
37 million, I think.
Did someone say 37?
Yeah.
Higher, lower, higher, lower.
I think I'm right.
Very good guess.
Okay, let's go 37. Okay, out of the 37, there's 3 million traveling right about now, right? I'm saying let's push that to the end result will be 10 million. That still means 66. That still means 66% of the country is Taliban.
Yes. What's your point?
Maths.
It doesn't. The point is this: it doesn't matter if. Well, no, it does matter. But what I'm trying to say to you is whatever oppression they're doing, they're still loved enough to stay into power. Bit like Boris.
Now, Andre, I think with all due respect, I don't think that we can compare our electoral system in the UK to the Taliban.
I'm not saying you can. I'm not saying you can.
And they are ready to kill anyone in sight. And all this Islam hoax, it's not Islam. This is all just a show. You know, they grow their beards long and they grow their hair.
Guys, I want to bring in Cam as he's a
listen to me. I'm not saying to you.
I've merely joined.
Cam, you're welcome. Chime in, please.
Lovely to meet you, gentlemen. I just want to pick up with this
Well,
brother. I think it's your name. Okay. Pakistan, by nature, has always had animosity with Afghanistan. So how much of what you've said is coming from a bias that is building you?
With respect, do we have 3 million in the country or not? If we had animosity, we wouldn't allow them in.
That's irrelevant. That's irrelevant.
So that's irrelevant. So I hate your country, but I'll allow 3 million people into my country.
Let me justify it. Let me justify why that's irrelevant. The same America that has gone there and pillaged and raped the whole country is also now saying, let's take in some refugees. So the irony still stands, okay? Now, Afghanistan is a threat to Pakistan, okay? I'm Bengali by nature. It's also a threat to Bangladesh. However, doesn't mean because of my patriotism, I'm going to turn around and say, oh, Talibans are bad. Every Taliban is bad, because that is not the case. You have to understand.
Can I just say something?
This brother said it correctly.
Sir, are they women oppressors or not? Taliban, that's the simple question. Are they women oppressors or not?
But Islam a woman oppressor? Is Islam a woman oppressor?
Not really. They held Khadija's held high as a high regard in Islam. Bro, Khadija's held high. But I'm just saying, Iran, you think are going to let Taliban think about it? They've invaded Iraq, the left of Iran. Now they've invaded Iraq, the Afghan. Listen to this.
So the answer is no, Islam isn't a woman oppressor. What's your point?
One second.
Okay.
1 second.
So according to the West, because my wife is prescribed to wear a hijab, Islam is oppressive against women.
That's not.
Sir, are you forcing your wife to wear a hijab?
No, but are the Taliban forcing people to wear a hijab?
Yes, they are, and they are killing innocent human beings.
So what?
How do you know that? Because I have friends who live in Pakistan. I have friends and live in Afghanistan. I have friends.
I know people in Pakistan as well.
I have friends who run cinemas in Afghanistan, and their family have got bob cuts. They do not wear the hijab, and they drink tea and whatever they're doing with Talibans, with the local Taliban leaders. Okay, but because the Western.
So where are they drinking tea right now? Where are they drinking tea? Do you think are they drinking tea or are they panicking for their lives?
Can I say something? Jules, can I say something as well?
Andre, you're back in.
Sorry, guys. It's a bit of a change of a subject, but it's another point I wanted to pick up to add just to throw into the mix.
Okay, let's move it on. Go on, Andre.
Is that Triple T that I've been talking to? That's talking.
Yes.
Yes, Triple T. Nice to meet. Nice to see you again. But listen, you said another point. You said that if you go to Afghanistan, they're way back in the past. They're not technological, right? But I can argue that technology is what's damaging the planet.
Thank you.
Can I just ask all you men? You think Iran are just going to sit here idle while Taliban's building up next door? I'm just wondering. I'm just posing this question to you lot. I'm keeping quiet. Like, they got the left of Iran, they got the right of Iran. You think the Strait of Hormuz is not the main key point here that we will stray from? That's what it's coming down to, isn't it? Sorry,
well, you're asking a question, but that's kind of goes back to the 19th century. Who's going to be next to go in there?
I just want to ask Brian now a question. I want to ask Brian a question for a moment. Brian, you talked about the 19th century and that was the Silk Road. We're now talking about oil and maybe gas. The gas pipeline is something we've forgotten. Was there not a strategic gas pipeline that had to travel a longer distance and now may not have to if it falls into the hands of the Taliban?
Well, I think if you go back up there, what Andre said about the mines, that's more important. Those mines up in the north of the country are extremely important. And the Chinese, and I presume Pakistan, because Pakistan and China are allies, and the ISI are heavily behind the Taliban, that the Chinese are the ones that are going to make the most hay out of this. That's what I think. I don't think Iran will want to go in there.
China are coming out on top here. They're the winners.
I think 100% they will, yeah.
So you do know China
are much cleverer than the West.
You know the Chinese and the Russians are making a new alliance, right?
Yeah.
And that superpower is probably going to be the superpower that's going to intervene in the situation then.
I don't
You know
think
what?
they'll
And
intervene.
you've
I
heard
think
that
they'll
saying.
buy their way in. I think they've learned their mistakes. The Russians have learned
You've heard that.
that it's a disaster to go into Afghanistan. So the smart move is to let it all play out. And the Chinese are the same.
That's right.
Chinese are very logical in their thinking. They're not
Yeah,
like
but
the
right now,
Americans.
you lot don't seem to realize it's Iran's problem because it's on Iran's doorstep.
Problem.
I
tell you
agree
this.
with you. I agree with you completely. But I don't think
Yeah.
Iran
Iran's
would
gonna
risk
have a problem,
involving themselves.
but the biggest threat.
If
biggest
they
threat
don't,
at the
it's going to come onto their soil eventually.
Listen,
This is the point.
Matt, what
Yeah, but why is that a
possibly,
problem?
is
Why is that a problem if it goes to Iran? Why is that a problem?
Well,
Have
they
you
don't.
just
They're not
heard
in the same school of thought, shall we say, or school of teachings. They're not in the same ideology, so they wouldn't agree. They'll clash already because they're fanatics, bro. No Islam would accept that.
Yeah, but what's that got? So yeah, but how's that affect Britain and the West if Iran goes to war with Afghanistan? What's the problem?
It doesn't. It's beneficial. But I'm just saying, Iran.
Exactly.
It's beneficial
That's
for
point there. Someone's just said it in the chat, and I've had this conversation with you before, Mac. Yeah, there's a saying, Gents, and I'm sure you've all heard it. Okay, if you live in a glass house, you should not throw stones. Iran,
100%.
Pakistan, you reap what you sow, my brothers. Okay, you guys find these guys. Okay, now it's funny how you're throwing the stones and calling them fanatics. Okay, you call a spade, and that's the way I would
But that's
do it.
what they are. That's exactly what they are. Have you read Mozambique's book?
All right, can I one more point? Can I just say one more thing? If these people are so backward,
Thank you.
and you know they're oppressing their people and they're not allowing technological and all that, then why are we so concerned about it? Right? Yeah, I'm not being funny, but I'm a fighter, right? You know, I used to fight, right? So the point of the matter is this: if I'm coming at you with Thai boxing skills and you're only coming at me with boxing, that makes me happy because you ain't got enough skills to pay the bills, right? If Afghanistan is so backward and all that, why are we so concerned? Everything, you know what? When you start off an argument with a lie, it's not long before it gets found out. These people are not a threat to us here in the West. If anything, and here's another point. Somebody said about them selling heroin and all that. I know about the heroin
opium
because
opium.
Listen to this. Can I just say this as well about the heroin? The heroin, right, problem was it's the same heroin that England used to destroy China in the opium wars. So at the end of the day, if the heroin comes back here, right, that's just a bit of karma. That's how I see it. But if these people are so hooked on heroin and making money out of heroin, then they must be up for deals when it comes to mining and using their right away
so
to be
you know,
able
on
to
the dollar
transport
bill,
the minerals.
you know, on a dollar bill it says "In God we trust." Yeah, in God. Now, in God is gold, oil, and drugs. That's what it stands for. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, just,
so that money.
Back to the
Let's
Mac,
see.
if I may go back to the topic.
It is. I'm sorry. They're funding because the thing is, what I want to point out is what Iran's point was saying is they spend like 50 million pounds on defense, but same time, America's expenditure to be in that region. I mean, obviously now
Crazy money.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
Forget that though. You need to look at the threats. The first country that is in threat, I'll tell you who it is. It's Pakistan, and they're all running around with their tails between their legs at the moment. However, you reap what you sow, and you're right, Mac. Once they do Pakistan, they will move towards Iran because they have a conflict of firstly beliefs, but secondly they have an
sir, I want to ask you, sir, I'm sorry, I'm not aware of your name, but if I may ask you a question, how many Muslim countries are there in the world? I believe there's around 60. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think just over 60.
So let's say there's over 60 countries. You got inclusive of the richest countries probably in the world, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and so on. Out of all those 60 plus countries, which is the only country out of 60 Muslim powerful countries, which is the only country that has an atomic nuclear bomb?
Okay,
it's one country, and that one country is Pakistan. So I don't think Pakistan would be running around with its tail between its legs. With respect,
let me answer the question. Let me answer the question. Firstly, you said Muslim, okay? There is only a few namesake Muslim countries. They're all namesake, okay? If there was a Muslim country, there would be a
Well,
caliphate,
namesake or
there
not,
would be an establishment,
namesake or not, there's
okay?
only one Muslim
And you're
country
talking about
with
this nuclear
that power.
bomb. You're talking about this nuclear bomb that you hold, yeah? How do you know Iran ain't got nuclear bombs? How do you know Saudi Arabia doesn't have nuclear bombs? They're just not telling people, okay? A gangster does not go around telling people he's a gangster.
Sir, you can't have nuclear atomic bombs. There's actually agencies out there that
Yeah, we know
are
about
surveying the
Nuclear
world as we
Proliferation
speak.
Authority. We know about that. But you're talking about a sovereign state, yeah? What I do in my house, you cannot tell me what I do in my house, okay? We know about
With
the
respect, I don't think you understand how this works really, because it's impossible. It's literally impossible for somebody to make an atomic bomb currently without detection. It's impossible. We have a few
I don't
countries.
believe that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
Centrifuge. You know, they got underground tunneling, underground centrifuges. That it got to the point where they had to do spywares to mess up these centrifuges. They couldn't access.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
So then, if we're gonna speak like that, then every country in the world has probably got nuclear atomic bombs. How do you know every country in the world doesn't?
No. Not every country has got nuclear bomb, but I'm saying I don't believe that.
No, that they don't. That's my question.
There was a lot of Russians that went rogue when the Soviet Empire broke up.
You know what worst thing is, yeah? Okay. From your name, I guess you're of an Islamic background, yeah? I'd like to remind the Muslims and the non-Muslims in this chat room, nationalism in Islam is haram, okay? No affiliation.
Well, it depends on the severity. It depends on the severity of the nationalism.
The Lord and his prophets, peace be upon them all, okay? I have no affiliation to no flag. I have no affiliation to no state, okay? I am Bengali by heritage, but I have no relation to them because of the way the Bangladesh is called the Islamic Republic of Bangladesh. There is nothing Islamic about that country, okay? Just because it's called the Islamic Republic of Pakistan does not mean they are Pakistani. Look at Musharraf. Let's go back. All of these people, their characteristics have never been demonstrative of their Islamic roots, okay?
Well, that's the entire, sir. I don't judge people on their Islamic roots or not. I'm focusing on how people treat others. That's my main concern. They can be, perhaps they can be more pious within their heart. They could be very Islamic. We don't know what they do privately. They could be giving millions to charity. We have no idea.
Can I ask a question, lads? Can I ask a question?
Go for it.
Yeah, regarding Pakistan, why? I suppose the ISI heavily backed Taliban, and a lot of money came from Saudi Arabia as well, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
I tell you what my question is that do you think that the Taliban would turn around and bite the hand that feeds it?
Absolutely.
In terms of the Pakistani military intelligence.
By their delusional ambitions.
Absolutely. But sometimes it might not even be delusion. You have to remember, when you want to kill the snake, you cut the head of the snake first. Do you understand? As much as Pakistan, and remember this, I am not anti-Pakistan, I am anti-bullshit, okay? Islamic State, all of this, Turkey, they're all flawed in their portraying Islam. They say, oh, we're an Islamic State. You're not an Islamic State. If you were an Islamic State, you would behave like it in the world stage, okay? So it's all good saying, oh, yeah, we're a nuclear country and we'll do this and we'll do that. You won't do nothing. What have you been doing for Palestine? Nothing. What have you done for Afghanistan? What did Pakistan do when the Russians were invading Pakistan for 10 years? Yeah? What was happening?
Oh, can I ask a question?
It had to be the West giving them money and giving Ahmed Shah Massoud the artillery to fight them in the mountains. And for 10 years, they held off. But as soon as they got rid of the Russians, what happened? The ISI moved in and it was like time to grab the land. And then 10 years after that, Muslims fought Muslims for 10 years. And these are the same people that are saying they're fanatics. I'll be a fanatic. If you turn up to my house tomorrow and try to take my house, I am going to be a fanatic to you. Simple as that. I'm not going to welcome
100%, 100%,
I'm not going to welcome you like a guest. But this is the problem with Pakistan and Afghanistan. Bangladesh kind of sits on the fence, hence why I hate Bangladesh. But Pakistan has always kind of been the serpent in the background, waiting for Afghan to be on his knees and then bite. It needs to stop.
Can I just say? Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question?
Of course you can, brother.
Yeah, my question's to you because I don't understand. You keep saying that Pakistan and Afghanistan is a threat to Pakistan, but I thought them two used to intermarry, like they all intermarried along the border and all of that. I thought they were friends.
Bro, they made it look like intermarried. We hated each other. Okay, remember this. When Bharat, which was India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, which is modern day Pakistan. Bangladesh was East Pakistan. Pakistan was West Pakistan, and we had India in the middle. Obviously, when the British went in, took everything, they separated us. We started wars. We fought against Pakistan. We fought against India for our independence. When I say we, I don't even allege myself with these people, but it was Bangladesh got their sovereign state. So they've always had an animosity. So if you went tomorrow to an Afghan area, predominantly something like Wood Green, where there's high population of Afghan people, you tell them, do you like Pakistanis who are around the corner in Turnpike Lane? They'll tell you they hate each other. Bangladeshis, we don't get along with Pakistanis. We just don't. It's one of those things we've had conditioning in our minds from since we're little, not to trust Pakistanis, not to trust Afghanistanis, not to trust Burmese, not to trust
But
Iranians.
Cam, is there not a difference between a Pakistani from the Punjab, from Islamabad or wherever, and a Pathan or a Pashtun Pakistani? It's the Brits who drew the border. Had there not been an occupation, these people would have just been Pashtun living next to whichever river they live next to.
If you let
what's the Pashtun population of Pakistan?
Sorry?
How many Pashtuns are there in Pakistan? Yeah,
a lot.
20%. As a guess, I don't know.
I think it's something like 20%. A big problem if you mess up. You know what I mean? And I would think that Imran Khan would be worried about a Taliban takeover of his country. I can see how the government of Pakistan would be worried about threats from Afghanistan, but the people themselves, if they are of the same tribe, why would they care where the foreigners drew the border?
Yeah, and this is the thing. So if you let the tribal leaders at that time, like you were talking about, the Pathans, the Punjab, if those tribal, I would 100% agree, and it would be a coercive rule. But what happened is, it's man by his nature is, kind of drawn to greed and how can I get a little bit more? And this is what the issue is, and this is what's happened in Bangladesh. Look at the rule of the family that has ruled Bangladesh. They're locking up their political opponents, they're killing them, they're hanging them on the street. Any religious preachers, they're getting hanged on the street, they're getting stoned, they're getting taken into prison.
22 hours.
It's one of those things, but what you have to think about is that area, that whole peninsula as a whole has always been on edge with each other. And with Pakistan and Afghanistan, there's always been an underlying rivalry, And the only way I can compare it to you being a Londoner is Arsenal-Tottenham. Do you understand? You take cover to the end, and the Irishman last. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's an Arsenal-Tottenham.
Is it like Celtic versus Rangers?
Absolutely. Old firm derby, my man. And the problem is you mentioned someone, Imran Khan. Imran Khan is a toddler of politics in terms of the history of these two countries. Yeah, especially how historically rich these two countries are. But sadly, man and his own interests have led these countries astray. And what I do fear, and this is my fear for the people of Afghanistan, is they're going to be drawn into long-fought wars on both sides. Like Max said, most likely with Iran. But you've got to look at how many of you guys, when you saw these news reports, went and saw the Pakistani military movements on the border? How many of you went and looked at the Iranian military movements on the border?
Look,
I've been watching it, and I'm telling you, most activities
they're mobilizing because they know it's a threat.
Yeah, and the Strait of Hormuz, bro. If they shut down that would affect our petroleum. All of us, like even the UK, if they shut that Strait of Hormuz down, So
Look,
and
man,
the last week,
just
they
yeah,
took the
if
vessel.
I may, if we can just stick to the topic just for a second. I'm actually taken aback and I'm very surprised. It seems to me that the panel seems to be supporting the Taliban. And that's very disturbing because if you've read Mozambique's book, Enemy Combatant, who was over there, and if you speak to not the selected few that are over here, who are living a good life here, if you go there and speak to people there, and currently right now you will get a different response to everything. It's a tough life. Look at those poor women. They're not even allowed to leave their homes, many millions of them. And this is just unfair and it's injustice and it's not Islamic. Certainly not the
Yeah,
Islam that I follow,
Omar,
which is peace
how
and
many
justice
million
and
of them
respect
women
for
are in
all.
Pakistan? How many million of them women are in Pakistan? Because I could tell you a story of a Pakistani woman I met yesterday who's being
Yeah.
oppressed. Oh, by the way, just to let you know, I work in social services. So that's why I met this
Okay, so
Pakistani.
then I can tell you Bangladeshi women in London that are oppressed. What's your point?
I tell you English women.
Sir,
But
why
you know
do you
what is the
mention
point?
one particular case? We're
You're
talking about a
specifying
whole
it to
entire
one
nation.
country.
It's
Why are you
stupid and it's
specifying
silly
it
of
to
you
one
just to
country?
mention one case. It makes no
Yeah,
sense.
but why are you specifying it to one country? There are
Because
Islamic
we're
fanatics.
referring, we're talking about
Okay, so,
Pakistan, Afghanistan. Now, if you're going to pick out
so
one
can I
woman you
ask you
met,
something?
I've met many Bangladeshi people. You know, in Bangladesh, the most amount of heroin sold in any country is after Afghanistan when it's taken out is Bangladesh.
And the
In
Taliban put a
Dhaka, it's the
stop to
biggest
that.
city.
Can I just say something?
And the
Naz?
Taliban put a stop
I'm
to
sorry?
that. Mac, you're in.
Can I, Naz? In
Maxine.
Pakistan, there's a lot of honor killing. Do you think that's Islamic when they do the honor killing?
So
No, I'm just
honor
asking.
killings. Well,
Like,
honor killings is anti-Islam. When you say a lot, we've got 200 plus million people. Do you think there's 200 million honor killings? How many do you mean? 10, 20? How many women are killed in your own country where you guys live in England a week by their own partners? Does anyone know? There's like, sometimes 10 or 20 that are killed who are absolutely fine making tea and making dinner with their partners, and they are killed by their partners, as cosmopolitan and as advanced as England truly is. So if you're going to take 1 point here, 2 points there, and that person did this and that doesn't make any sense. We're focusing on what the government says. The government doesn't support honor killings, does it? But if you go to Afghanistan, they don't have a problem with child marriages and even probably honor killings too. So this is a huge problem that I think we've all pretty much ignored tonight.
Yeah, I think what you've just said.
With that, I got to head off there, Julian.
Brian, thank you very much.
Nice to meet you, lads.
Let me just thank Brian, and we hope we'll catch you again soon. Much appreciated, my friend.
Yeah, nice to meet
Brian,
you, lads.
Superb.
You know what, Sloan?
Donovan, thank you very much. There you go. We're an international show.
You sounded
Brian.
very similar to Colin Powell and Tony Blair when they put their case forward for war in Iraq. That's exactly what they said. Oh,
won't somebody think of the children?
Exactly. And this is the problem. We like to point the finger because there's one person or two people. We need to obviously think of the collective. If Taliban was so bad, why are there still people in Afghanistan? Why is not everyone dead? Why is everyone not dead?
Well, it's not it's not beneficial for them to kill everyone. It's almost impossible to kill everyone.
Now, is it? Oh, so it's for benefit now. Oh, okay.
Sir, you can't kill 37 million people. It's not. What are you going to do? Go around stabbing people?
Now it's for benefit. Okay. I'm just trying to.
But the fanatics don't want to kill themselves, do they? The fanatics want to keep slaves and they want to sell heroin and they want to have the shroud of Islam.
Oh, okay. Even
Pharaoh, as evil as he was, he didn't kill the entire nation. He left half, didn't he, for his own benefit?
Guys, I think we've got Annabelle Rastrill with us. I hope he can hear us. And he's welcome to chip in if he's there. Annabelle.
Yes, family. Can you hear me?
We're hearing you loud and clear. Give us your thoughts on what's been said so far in Afghanistan.
Basically, what's happening is that everyone is forgetting one small detail about all of this. And that detail is the fact that the Taliban was created by America in order to fight the Soviet Union. Does anyone is aware of that?
Yeah, but you got to remember the post-Soviet War, 1994. They were known. Remember, the Talib comes from the phrase students. Okay, so Taliban means students. Okay, so they were a student of a group of people who studied alongside their leader at the time, who was Muhammad Omar. Okay, and when this war was kind of at its starting point with the Russians, yes, the Americans went in and they said, "Look, Mr. Omar, have you got a group of people?" And these were his army. So you're right. They supported the inception, but doesn't mean they were conceived.
Not only that, since Taliban coming to force, they actually outbanned, made it illegal for people to sell heroin. It was only when America come into the equation
Thank you.
that heroin was allowed to be sold in the open market.
Again,
this
please,
is one of the main reasons they're there.
Repeat that again, please, brother. What you just said.
I said that the Taliban outlawed.
So, sir, my question, if I may, to you is simply this: did Taliban ban schools for young girls or not? Did the Taliban shoot Malala Yousaf in the face or not?
Well, that's another subject, but I do think that they've got a lot of wrong things at the same time.
That's
you know what I mean? And that is one of the wrong things, because they're stopping children and girls from going to their school, and that is wrong.
Yeah. Nice one, Benny.
That's right.
You know
On the
what I mean?
screen, we've got the last Hindu priest of Afghanistan, Pandit Rajesh Kumar, and he says that even if the Taliban kill him, he will not be fleeing the country. He wants to be a martyr, it seems. He is a priest for the Hindu religion, and there's not many Hindus left in Afghanistan, not many Buddhists either, and the Buddhist statues were blown up, if you remember that, by the Taliban. So they have been a destructive force at times. They've also done some good things. They've outlawed heroin, and drug addiction has been reduced
as well.
They did indeed.
Quite possibly,
Smashed up some Babylonian artifacts.
They did indeed, and hence reason why they've taken action. However, Islamically, that is absolutely wrong, because there is no compulsion in religion according to our deen, and that shouldn't happen. People should be free to practice their religion. But what we have to remember, this brother earlier just mentioned Malala Yousaf, okay? During the War of Liberation of Bangladesh, Pakistan killed 3 million people, raped 300,000 to 400,000 women, okay? And these are sources not from Bangladesh or India. These are sources from the West that gave these sources. So, but doesn't make every Pakistani person bad. Doesn't make.
I'm not, but unfortunately, I'm going to have to question that from the Bangladeshi reports, even coming from Bangladeshis. If you go on, and those are very questionable. A Pakistani army in Bangladesh just one day decides to go on a raping spree. How many soldiers were really raping people? In their millions, tens of millions of soldiers just decided to rape people.
When the shoe's on the other foot, it's harder to take, isn't it?
I've just asked you a question.
I'm not making it up. I'm not making it up. Go on to Google.
So whether you're making it up, or not, that's irrelevant. The point is, we're talking about a protector army. They're protecting Bangladesh, East Pakistan at the time. And all of a sudden, one day, they just decide to go raping people. Come on, think about it. A Muslims doing this to other Muslims. It was India. Okay, sir, East Pakistan sided with India and Mujib Rahman to take over and to get independence.
Okay? My grandfather was fighting against those Pakistanis. Whose interest was you protecting? My grandfather grew up in the land of that Bangladesh that you're talking about, and he was fighting against the Pakistanis. So don't tell me
he was, but on what? Due to what though? Due to what?
You weren't protecting nobody's interest.
Who was? Yeah, but who?
You went there. Pakistan went there to increase their landmass. Simple as that. Okay, Pakistan.
They didn't have to go. Look. You're obviously unaware of this, but East Pakistan was Pakistan. Everything about East Pakistan was Pakistan. They didn't have to take over any land. They already had it.
Because of the interest of that Pakistan. We had no interest in being East Pakistan. We had an interest in being our own sovereign country. Okay?
Yeah, so this is why you sided with India to get rid of the Pakistani people, and all these stories of rape come up.
A good job of it.
So now you're just going back on your own words. 1 moment ago, you were saying they were raping everyone, and then all of a sudden now you're saying you did a good job of siding with India to get Pakistan out. So we're going around in a circle, aren't we?
Google your facts.
Your family, let's stick to the topic, please. Let's stick to the topic if we can.
Your facts, my man, yeah? Google your facts first. Go and type in 1971 war, Pakistani war crimes against Bangladesh, and you'll get all your facts that you need.
Well, okay. Well, I'll give you some advice. Bangladeshi war crimes on Pakistanis. Let's try that as well.
That. Had no allegiance.
So you don't care. So what sort of? So you don't care about that. You just care about Bangladesh. So this is not Islamic.
No, I care
We're
about
wasting our time here.
I care about Taliban.
So you came here talking about Islam and you're propagating Islam, but then all of a sudden you don't care. So we're going in a circle here. This is.
Who was the ambassador for the ambassador, that the English guy that was reciting the Iranian poetry? What was his name?
Say that again, Mac.
Do you remember the other day I was showing you some guy who's, and you said his name. He goes, he's the Indian thingy consulate or something. I can't remember. Do you remember who I'm talking?
British consulate guy.
Yeah.
I forgot his name.
I think he's responsible, bro.
Do you know what,
gentlemen?
The problem is we could point fingers all day, but what it is you can't tarnish everyone with the same paintbrush, okay? Because, like my brother said earlier, sorry, the brother in the car, I don't know his name.
Andre McIntyre.
Andre said it very, very right, and he's given it from no bias standpoint. Okay, he has no allegiance to any of these sides. 66 or 70% of the country would not support something if it was not in their interest. Okay, this is how coup d'etats work. Everyone knows military warfare. My brother was in the army. He will know. You mobilize the people, then the army, and then you take lead. You take rule. Okay. If that was the case,
what are you talking about? They've got the people are oppressed. Well, I don't understand.
Pause it there, gentlemen, because we are going to welcome back to the show. It's been a long time. BA, are you there? Barber?
I can't hear anything.
Barber, we can hear you. Say hello to your old friend Andre and the rest of the gang.
Oh, Barber! Barber there!
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Barber, we can hear you. Go for it. But turn your radio down, as George Galloway used to say, because we're hearing an echo. Or someone is watching it on the... I'm going to mute Annabelle. Go for it, Barber. Go for it.
There's no echo, right?
No, we're okay now. You go for it, I think. I know maybe there is an echo. Are you watching it on the screen? Look, we're all going to shut up and listen to Barber. Go for it, Barber. Give us your 2 pence worth.
Let me see. Yeah, I got you on the TV, but I'm looking at my phone right now.
Oh, turn the TV down, for God's sake. That's what we're hearing in the background. This guy used to be a professional. I used to present on the radio with him.
Listening to you guys, a lot of... Oh, sorry. My God. Okay. How about now?
Yeah, you go for it. But you don't need to hear yourself. you can hear yourself.
1 second, 1 second.
Oh dear. TV is for watching, not being on. No, it's the other way around.
Okay, all right. No, I've been listening to you guys. Very interesting.
What do you make of it? You love the Taliban, don't you?
I'm with you. I'm with you now.
Okay. Well, what's the answer in Afghanistan? What do we do? He's jumped ship. Honestly, that guy is a professional radio presenter, but he can't watch a YouTube without listening to himself. Now, I've muted everyone. I'll have to go back and unmute you all, but it was Barber that was sabotaging the show. Look, we're back in. Anyone wants to say anything, they can. Andre, what did you feel there when you saw your old friend?
I was really pleased to see him. I need to talk to him, actually, because I might be going to Sweden soon, so I need to speak to him. Listen, look, I think we're straying off point a little bit. I think we're... Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go for it.
Can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear, we got you.
Right, I think you guys are straying off point a little bit. I think we're going on too much about Islam. And as the brother, I don't see him on there anymore. Oh yeah, it was there was a brother on there said earlier on saying about certain countries don't behave Islamic, and I think he said Bangladesh is not Islamic. even though it's supposed to be an Islamic country. I can't remember who said that.
That was
That
Cam.
was-
Yeah, that. But who said that? What's his name?
Cam.
That's
Oh, can I
Cam.
hear here?
Cam.
Cam.
Yeah, Cam said that, right? So here's my point. What's Islam got to do with this, really and truly? What's Islam really got to do with this? We're talking about foreign powers invading the country under the premise that they're helping the people. But they don't care about Islam anyway, and they certainly don't care about people, because a lot of the deaths that happened in the country, right? A lot of the deaths that happened in the country was from stray, what they call collateral damage. And they fling a couple of £1,000 at you, sorry for blowing up your kids. Look, at the end of the day, yeah, I'm sick and tired of foreign countries going into another people's country claiming that they're there for the people. Yeah, why don't you be for us? The millions and the trillions you're spending on the war, couldn't we do with that in the NHS in this country? If you really care about us that much, right here, what about that? Because these goat herders from Afghanistan and apparently don't have enough intelligence to be following, and don't want the people to be following technological advancement. So if they don't want them to be following technical advancement, why are we sat down here worried about what they're going to do and what they can and what they can't do to our country here in England? Listen, it's all rubbish. Yeah. At the end of the day, this is how I see it. The Taliban have taken over the country. The Taliban was in power before we even fought them, right? So they're in power. It's their duty to look after their people. And may I remind you, all superpowers and first world countries that are in power today also went through a civil war. Britain went through a civil war because they were being oppressed by King Charles I, and Oliver Cromwell forces defeated him because the people had enough. Right. The same thing happened in Spain. The same thing happened in the aristocracy that happened in France, and Napoleon took power, right? When the people's had enough, they will fight for their independence. So hear what? Afghanistan is saturated with AK-47s right about now and RPGs. When the people's had enough of the Taliban, go and assassinate them and free yourself then, innit? Because right about now, 66% of the people, right, seem to be happy to stay in the country. And you may say, oh, you may want to turn around and say, oh, that's because they're being oppressed to stay in the country. Okay, I hear all that. I hear that. But hear what? They're not being oppressed enough to pick up an RPG and kill the Taliban leaders. And that's when you really know. It's a bit like slavery, right? You know, coming from a Caribbean background, I will tell you about slavery. Slavery went on for 400 years. And when it got kind of serious and people had enough, we revolted in Cuba and in Haiti and in Jamaica, right? We revolted and killed
but they didn't revolt in America, did they? So
well,
not everyone has that.
Triple T. I want to welcome Barbara in. Finish your point, Andre.
Triple T, you're right. They didn't in America, but in actual fact, they did try to revolt on many occasions, right? But then the Civil War came, so everybody flooded to help with that point. It was a civil war. It wasn't France. It wasn't Russia. It wasn't different countries coming in and helping, although they did in a small capacity, I admit. It was their people fighting for their independence. Power to the people. When the people's had enough, they will stand up and fight, yeah? So I'm sick and tired of hearing people say, "Oh, you know, yeah, there's a load of asylum seekers, all this because they hate oppression in their country." It's not enough. Not 66%, 70%, 80% of the people are with the Taliban, and they were with the Taliban even when the coalition forces were there. What do you call it? The interpreters who were under the protection of the coalition forces were throwing grenades on the coalition forces and killing them. There's a report of even Gurkhas was over there fighting, and one of them threw a grenade and shot up the whole tent with about 15 of them in there, killed the whole lot. So at the end of the day, they respect the Taliban more than they respect the coalition forces. Leave them alone to get on with their own business.
Well, Barbara, do you agree? And can we hear you?
I agree with a lot of the things he's saying, actually.
Okay.
You hear me fine?
Yeah, we hear you now. No echo. Go for it.
Do you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you. Go for it, Barbara. You're in.
Okay, excellent. No, I agree with a lot of the things Andre is saying. A lot of the things Andre is saying, particularly about the population, that the majority of Afghans are actually with the Taliban. I actually believe that. And I actually believe that although it's a high number, it's still less or few compared to the majority of people that actually are with the Taliban. And I think that is just their way of thinking. You know, they are more into that culture, that way of life. Do you understand? And you can call it mental conditioning, you can call it whatever. But after 40 years of war, you know, the majority of people are going to have a particular type of how we would think. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. There's a story I want you to just comment on. Former Guantanamo Bay inmate among Taliban leaders pledging no revenge. So how has a guy who spent time in Guantanamo Bay ended up back in Afghanistan again? Does this show that prison isn't working? I wonder, was his return to Afghanistan facilitated?
They basically MK Ultra'd him and they sent him back as an agent. So basically, he was in Guantanamo Bay, converted him to an agent and sent him back. I don't know. I'm just suggesting.
You never know. The tinfoil hat that I wear tells me to question.
I mean, I wouldn't know about that, to be honest with you. I don't know.
Well, a man dying, fighting for his life, given that opportunity, would he not take it?
Yeah, you would. But once you've been released, don't you go and find a little hut somewhere and get out of there clinches and their
family members, and they got pictures.
He went straight back into it.
Like they hold it against you. Family members, they'll run like hold it.
You know what? I've got one more point as well. Can I say one more thing? Isn't it the Muslim countries? Isn't it the Muslim country's job to police another Muslim country? If a Muslim country isn't following the right Adeen, right, and following right Iman, isn't it for the Muslim? Should the Muslim countries be going in there saying, right, you're not following the right way? Yeah, you should be oppressing your people. You should be doing this. Why is it always the West that has to police Islamic nations? Why is Islamic nations not policing themselves?
Well, because there's
because the people who sit
Muslim
around
army since the caliphate.
Because there's no money in it for the
Arab
people.
League was set up for that, to kind of make the communications between Muslim countries a little bit more open. The brother just mentioned the caliphate. The caliphate was abolished, obviously, at the Ottomans, you know, kind of orchestrated by Theodore Herzl. But it is not the job of one state to tell the other state how to carry out their affairs.
I know it's not. I know it's not. But it was actually a sarcastic question, because the point I'm trying to make is, yeah, it was actually a sarcastic question, because I'm saying they should be doing that. Because I'm not being funny, right? If I was, what's the word? Let me put it the right way. Because I'm trying, you know what it is? I'm trying to sit on the fence. So let me play it. But if I was a stout Muslim and a fanatical Muslim, I ain't gonna like the fact that kuffar are coming in and blowing up my people. Them. So really and truly, if there's an issue and the country needs to be policed, why ain't the Saudis doing it? Why, you know? I'm sick of hearing this. Oh yeah, it's because of the Ottomans. All blah blah. That's the past. We're 100 years on now, right? Yeah, we should be starting to police ourselves, is it not?
Yeah, and this is what I was saying, Andre, earlier. I wasn't trying to resonate it with Islam. I was trying to say to you, if it was the true Islam, my brother, you're absolutely right. They should be standing shoulder to shoulder with these people and helping them, because that is the way it works. Do you understand? However, you have to remember, just because, like, for example, if I can't sew myself, can I start trying to teach you how to sew?
100%.
Do you understand? And this is the problem. The Arabs, yeah, they'll give you 5 days a week. They'll give you sheikh. When it comes to Saturday night, they're on their cruise ships, off to Ibiza, you know, partying away. And this is the problem. It's namesake Muslim. And the brother did mention earlier, there is no longer no caliphate. The caliphate is the umbrella rule of the Islamic State. And, you know, obviously is portrayed as a word stereotype to think fanatics, terrorists, blah, blah, blah. But it's not. The caliphate is part of Sharia law, and it is the law of God, basically, to rule everyone fairly and justly. You know, prince, pauper, everyone's the same. And this is the issue. What's happening is man is taking things and saying, right, Islam suits me here, you need to practice Islam like this. Islam suits me here, don't practice Islam like this. And this is the problem, you know. And like I was saying, I have friends and family who are in Pakistan, in Afghanistan and in Pakistan respectively, and they all side with the Taliban because they're getting on with their lives. They're not the people who are trying to jump on the plane today that you saw in the images. You know, there are sadly people like that who are trying to get away for certain reasons. We don't know what the reason is, but we cannot 100% say it's because of the Taliban. Okay? These people might be trying to get away from something else.
You know, I'm going to say something as well. I've got some family. I've got my family. My mum and dad are both Jamaican. So the main majority of my family is from Jamaica, yeah?
Yeah, bro.
Right. Now, here's the thing. They don't get it back in Jamaica. They don't get it. They don't get it. And this is why I mentioned when Triple T was talking earlier on, when Triple T said about technological advancement their way back in the past. When I go back to Jamaica, I see beauty. I see the fact that some of them still climb trees to pull down coconuts and stuff like that, right? Yeah, Jamaica is very much advanced now. But what I'm trying to say to you is that bush life is real things. That's real life right there. Do you understand? Right now, you know, you see chickens walking across, and I'll say to them, "Oh, let's kill the chicken and have dinner." No, we don't eat the chickens that's running around the place. We go to the shop and buy the GM chicken from America because it tastes different. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? Here's the point I'm trying to make. Right. So here's the point I'm trying to make now. After 10 to 20 years of American influence, American Oreos, Americans, McDonald's, Americans, whatever, being pushed on the people, what's happening is now, right, the sweet taste of the West has corrupted the people then. So what's happening is, of course, there's going to be 10 million that don't want to live like the Taliban anymore because they want, you know what I mean? They want the American dollar. They want the American dream, isn't it?
100%, my brother. Let me give you a prime example. Okay, so obviously my father has always taken care of, you know, several families back home, and obviously since my father passed, it's become my responsibility. So these people are living in mud huts, my brother, but whenever I go there, they don't want me to build them a house. They don't want me to install them a well or set them up a business. You know what the man wants? iPhone 12, iPhone 11.
110%.
You see that, my brother? He hasn't got a roof on his head, but he wants an iPhone 12, bro.
Triple T. That's what I was trying to tell Triple T. I could argue that technological advancement is bad for us. That's what I was trying to say. And the Taliban, in a way, are bringing us back to reality.
And this is the problem. What we try to do is we take individual incidences and we try to relate them and portray them and mar them on a whole group of people. It cannot happen because I cannot take what happened to the victims of Prince Andrew and Harvey Weinstein and then just say every single white man out there is like that. Does not work, you know.
I was watching
toxic narrative that.
You know, I was watching David Attenborough yesterday. It was the Oceans It was, in fact, he's got a whole series on Netflix now about the oceans and about the planet and how we're damaging it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't. All right. Okay. I know. There's bullets and there's guns in Afghanistan, but their way of living is less harming to the planet than how we're living. I tell you that now.
100%. They
And
live off flora and fauna. They live off flora and fauna. They do not
right.
the earth.
Everything we do, even the clothes we wear, is damaging the planet.
Yeah, bro.
Right. And the way you pick, I could argue that the Taliban are here to bring us back to reality a little bit. You know what I mean? The man just said, Cam's just said, the man them are living in mud hut. Well, see, when did mud hut hurt anybody or hurt any animal or hurt any insect?
Never, bro. It actually, to get the strength in the mud, you have to use cow pat, bro. It comes from the excrement of a cow.
That's
Gentlemen,
right.
we welcome one final guest. It's Samir, I believe. Oh, welcome, sir. What do you make of what's been said? Samir, are you there?
I think she's got her mic off.
Samir Sayar. Oh, wait. Go for it. Sorry, you were muted.
Go for it. Sorry, you were muted.
What do you make of what's been said?
Hello, everybody.
What do you make of what's been said?
Oh, no, now we've got an echo somehow. أهلا وسهلا. Go for it. تفضل.
أهلا وسهلا. I wanted to say you hello because you talk about Afghanistan. And me, I am living in Syria since 2013.
And where are you from?
I was originally from France and from Saint-Étienne. It's a small city. And then I've been to Turkey and then to Syria.
Interesting. Do you see that, Andre? Syria to us is a war-torn country, but this brother moved from Saint-Étienne in France through Turkey and went to Syria. Brother, I must ask you, what made you move to Syria? Please share.
In fact, there was a mosque, a Jama, in Saint-Étienne. I've been there, and after they told us in 2012 to go to Syria. I've been to Syria with one guy with me, one friend.
I don't understand.
Is your hand on the mic, brother?
Sorry?
I can't hear you. You're very faint.
Yes.
Okay. You said your Jama asked you to go to Syria from your mosque. What was the purpose of your trip from France to Syria? What was the
In fact, they told us that in Syria there are Russian people. They told us about the Russian people, and we had to do something there. And I've been there, and everything has changed now because since 2013 I've arrived. Everything has changed here.
Changed how so?
In fact, I'm going to explain you. Russians have taken the power, and some Russians have information before everybody.
So what you're saying in essence is Russia has mobilized itself within Syria and is a dominant strength within Syria now.
I'm going to tell you something amazing. On October 2019, there are Russians, they knew that the COVID was coming. And they knew...
Mon frère, écoute-moi bien. C'est pas possible de parler comme ça.
It's all right, Andre. It's all right, Andre.
Oh.
It's okay. Gentlemen, it's okay. it's been one hell of a ride, and we've got to wrap things up. I don't know who that man was. I think he's a friend of Barbara Ali, but we will do this all again soon.
Is your
Thank
friend,
you for
Baba?
joining me.
I love the way you said he's a friend
I
of
love
Barbara
that.
Ali.
He's funny.
Julia, that was
This has
brilliant.
been
That was brilliant. I just
Lessons
see
for
Andre
Life. It's
going like this.
been a good
I
one.
just see Andre
We were
going
here.
like this.
We were here, and we are gone.
Wow.
Laters.